ladies and gentlemen, we are just about ready to rock and roll tonight in Tulare, California at the ThunderBowl with the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series. And in motorsports, I would say some racetracks just have a certain reputation, good or bad. The best way I can describe this one, I heard it on Facebook today, one of my fans. I'd never heard Tulare called Scary Tulare. That's what they named this place. The reason they call it Scary Tulare is because as a driver, it's pretty gnarly. It gets right up on the boards, your right rear is against the fence. Like there's a cushion, but a lot of times guys are literally beating off the wall. And in general, you carry just a lot of speed here. It's long straightaways. It's a very tight turn. So when you're running the high side, like I said, you're up against the boards. And if you're running the bottom, your left front is just right off these infield tractor tires. This is just a place when you show up here, you know as a driver, you absolutely must be up on the wheel and gotta be ready to gas your car up. So here in just a little bit, we'll be getting all suited up. Excited to be back racing after a couple of weeks off. We got the 18T here. We got over 35 410 sprint cars. Tonight is just more of a standard show. Tomorrow pays $83,000 to win. So big weekend in the here with the Outlaws. We're ready to get after it in just a little bit. We'll have engine heat and then get into the rest of the night. So our night is underway here at the ThunderBowl as the sun is just setting. Got 37 sprint cars and we timed in really dead smack. They're blowing the horn for heat races. We were dead smack in the middle, 18th quick out of 37. So now that's gonna be starting us 5th in a heat race. We hot lapped well, which is always a good start to the night. I think we were in the top 10 in hot laps. And then my qualifying line in my laps, like I feel were good. It's just like I could have just been going a little bit faster. Like I was able to get into turn 1 and 2 and it seemed like the line was like if you could almost enter on the top and then get it turned down just slightly. For me, I almost think maybe I turned down too much. That's where I'm saying I could have carried more momentum, but you had to get it turned down because it's almost like if you washed out off of 2, it just took forever and added time to your lap. And then through 3 and 4, kind of just charging hard about 3/4 of the way up the speedway, and it kind of just kept moving up. The nice thing about tonight's surface is whether you went out first or whether you went out last, you had an opportunity to lay down a good time. So even though we went out late, I mean, there was guys bouncing up no matter where they went out. Overall, my balance for the ThunderBowl, you know, a place I feel like where I've had some good and I've also had some bad. Like I felt like we were close. We just got to kind of keep working on it a little bit. Not going to make a crazy amount of changes here for this heat race because now we're going to be starting on the inside. There's still grip on that part of the track, and now that I'm racing around, guys, it's going to be really easy to get balled up. So we got to finish in the top 5 to transfer into the main event, and we're going to be starting 5th. So we rolled up to staging as we were the second heat race to go out, but we actually got sent on the track early because they needed to pack the bottom side of the racetrack in. Everybody qualified around the top, and the bottom was still greasy, which meant there wasn't a lot of grip and it was still wet, so it was going to be unfair for the cars that started on the inside row. So we went out there and probably made, 8 or 10 laps just trying to burn it in, and I was really trying to run as low as I could on the track just to make sure the inside was good because I had to start down there. we started 5th in our heat race, finished 6th. We were kind of in a difficult position being on the inside. Obviously 5th is the last transfer spot, and which is kind of how the racetrack is, still being a little greasy on the bottom. And I could have started better. I kind of tried actually to go below the grease. It's weird. So sometimes the grease is on the very bottom. Well, it's kind of like half of a lane, almost of like hard surface. And then there's like a patch where it's a little bit wetter. So I was trying to avoid that and go a little below it. And I probably spun the tires, I feel like, just as much. And maybe too, that just gave a little bit more room to the car on my outside. So I lost that spot going into 1. And then from there, it was kind of just like a train. I mean, obviously the guys way out front are super fast, but we all don't fall off with much pace, you know, after that. It was just more about single filing out. And with that too, I wasn't, didn't feel like my car was super upset, probably a little bit more on the tighter side. The difficult part about the track right now is where there's grip, you know, we're probably on the verge of being tight, but then if the track starts to widen or there's some spots that are harder, that there's just some good material sitting on top, so it's deceiving. It looks like the whole track has grip. There's spots where it doesn't. Even like Hodenshield in front of me almost spun out when he just got a little bit high. So we got to be careful. As much as we need our car free, I do think gonna have to, you know, we're gonna have to start tightening up here in just a little bit and be cautious and, you know, what we do with our car to get it where we need. So we're gonna be up front to be main event. We got to transfer through that now to get into the show. So we made it through the B main event. We started 2nd on the front row and ran 2nd for every single lap. Transferred through. B mains are always they're always stressful because you know that even if you're starting that far up front, if you kind of just get in cruise control, everything should be okay. You just never know what's going to happen in dirt racing. Overall, my car felt kind of like how it's felt all night. I made good speed. I felt pretty maneuverable, like I could kind of run around the top, which seems to be the best lane right now. 1 and 2, it's about 3/4 of the way up, and 3 and 4, it's almost on the wall. It's kind of developing like a ledge up to it. But I think now for this A main event, starting 22nd, we're going to have to move all over. We're going to try to keep our car a little bit on the free side. Lately, some of the previous races we ran, I feel like as we started so far back, we've tried to tighten up and predict the racetrack, but I think now we're going to try to keep it freer so I can move around, as I'm going to be kind of balled up anyway behind a lot of cars, and if I don't go anywhere early, you're, you know, in threat of just getting lapped, and then your race is pretty much over from there. So we're making some changes, and we'll be climbing back in now for 30 laps.
So unfortunately, the footage of this A-main event is short-lived as my cameras were covered, and then we had some problems with a few of our other angles, so I don't have anything to share with you. But the race ended up going 30 laps, green to checkered, non-stop, and starting this far back, I wasn't really able to make a lot of forward progress. I was running a decent line, I was catching some of the cars in front of me, and then later in the race, once actually David Gravel lapped me, he got to my inside, I saw a completely different line that he was running. I was able to follow him, and my last like 5 or 6 laps of the race were by far my best, as a lot of cars had migrated to the bottom, and I actually then, you know, started to move forward a little bit.
What did we finish, 20th?
Yes.
20th?
What's his name finished 16th? Shots. He was behind you.
Gotcha.
He went to the bottom before you, though.
Yeah. So we started 22nd, finished 20th at the ThunderBowl. Glad that the car's in one piece. We had a 30-lap non-stop green flag race. Pulled just about 20 tear-offs in the feature. Definitely no lack of moisture in the racetrack in certain spots. It was really thick, and the bottom, or I'd say like a lane off the bottom, ended up being kind of the way to go tonight. Starting that far back, I told you guys we were just gonna have to kind of go wherever, and I probably just, if I could critique my race, at the very end, as my fuel load burned off, and once Gravel lapped me, and I kind of saw the line that he was running, and when I mimicked it, I felt like really, really good. I saw how he was running the bottom in 3 and 4, like everybody was kind of working more the middle, even when I was behind Donnie, but Gravel was like entering on the bottom, and then just driving almost like half a lane up and catching the little bit of grip that was there with the right sides, and just launched you. It was just a very conservative lane where you could just literally just, you know, like I said, cruise control around. Early on, starting on the top, I was just trying to make the top work and rip around guys, and that's hard to do with the fuel load. You know, it's easy. It just, you're so tight, you know, as you try to give it more throttle, it's easy to drive your car in the wrong spot. So I, you know, just wasn't able to get going early, which, I mean, it's hard to do no matter what. Definitely not an easy task, but anyway, I really tried the first couple laps. It just, where I went and where I was at just didn't work. So kind of was battling between 22nd and 24th, and then once I finally got rolling and ran the top in 3 and 4, the more the bottom in 1 and 2, I passed a couple cars, but everyone's just started spreading out. And then, like I said, once Gravel, which he was the only car that did lap us, I talked about everyone being similar in speed. I could hear him for a while, and then finally kind of just got underneath me. And then, like I said, I followed him, and once I saw kind of what he was doing, as he was running much lower in 3 and 4, I realized that was good, and then I used that to pass a car or two. Just wish I could have done that for more laps. You know, you just wouldn't judge by looking at the racetrack that would have worked, but it was just the shortest way around, and the top was hard to run as there wasn't a lot of grip. It was just basically slick to a cushion. But anyway, we'll take it for tonight, and glad that we just put a whole night together, completed all the laps here at the ThunderBowl, and you know, we'll have something to kind of work off of going into tomorrow. So it's the next day now, we're working on the racetrack. Tulare last night in the feature didn't end up being scary Tulare, as the line that was the fastest is about where I'm standing right now. Kind of entering in on the bottom, and you can't really see because he's trying to regrade the racetrack, get it ready to go racing, but literally you were kind of coming off just about right here in the middle. There's a little bit of grip right here on the very bottom, was actually kind of slick because it was hard, but that moisture just lived right in this area all night long. And then if you look up at the wall, I mean, he has already kind of knocked the cushion down, but you can see how it built up against it. And that's what's deceiving about this place, is usually whenever you can carry a lot of speed and kind of use that cushion, you know, usually that's the fastest way around, but last night that was not the case. And I will say the cushion was a little bit ragged almost, and you normally can carry a little bit more speed. It just seemed like it was just kind of slick to it, and it just wasn't as much grip there as normal, where that's kind of where that line down here just ended up being a shorter way around. But wanted to show you that before we end the video. Once I found that line the last couple laps, once I saw Gravel was running down there, you know, a lot of the guys that I was around weren't necessarily running it as well as him, so it was kind of hard to know. When you miss it and you end up in this slick part right here in between the middle and the top, it wasn't good. But when you hit that and you kept your car really settled, like, whew, it was just like a rocket ship down the front stretch. And sometimes in dirt racing, it's not always how you get through the corners, it's also making up speed on straightaways, especially when they're as long as they are here at the ThunderBowl. So anyway, that's tonight's show. 20th place result, obviously not, we're not happy with that. You know, I'm glad that we finished the night, because we've had some nights at Tulare where that's not been the case, but in general, obviously we want to be better, and obviously it all goes back to qualifying, and that's something we've really been working on throughout the season. If you qualify good, you start farther up front. I think last night, if we start on the front row of a heat race, or even the second row, you know, we're in the show, we start farther up front, and if we started 10th in last night's A-main event, I think we run right around there, we're able to have a shot at moving moving forward. Just like how we started in the back, you kind of finish back there. It takes a lot to make a huge charge and pass a bunch of cars, especially when you have no yellows. So we're gonna keep working on it. We have now rolling into the next day now, $83,000 on the line with the Dennis Roth Classic, and we're gonna try to make it a much better show for us in the 18T. So thank you all. We will see you in the next video, and we appreciate you riding along with us for the journey. Deuces.